Welcome back to Avaya Engage. We are here in Dubai at the Atlantis Hotel. I have with me Marcus from, let me get this right, Davies Hickman Partners. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks very much. Great to be here.
Marcus, tell us a little bit about yourself and the business.
Okay, so Davies Hickman Partners, we've been around for about 10 years. We're a market research, data analytics company working in the whole field of customer experience. So we do global studies, we do studies in the UK, and we're all about helping organisations to improve the experience they offer to their customers.
Okay, so you're fresh off the stage here at Engage. You're talking about something which is pretty unique but fundamental to everyone really as human beings. Tell us a little bit about those key messages from your talk earlier.
Okay, we're talking about customer happiness. So over the last few years, lots of people will have noticed that economists, politicians, policymakers have become more concerned about the happiness of their population. So there's always been a lot of focus on wealth and GDP, but more and more politicians, and particularly here in UAE, have been focused on the happiness of their citizens, of the public. So Avaya, who we've worked for on this particular project, has been talking about customer happiness and employee happiness for a couple of years now, but what they wanted to do was to sort of understand in a more robust, well-researched way how different levels of happiness are across different countries, across different verticals.
Okay, so why is happiness important? You know, what does that bring to the business world? Happy employees and happy customers. What does that mean exactly?
Well, happiness is about emotion, and more I think organisations are understanding that if you want loyal customers, if you want people who really connect with your brand, you need to connect on an emotional level. And happiness is that emotional level. Now there are some verticals obviously where you'd argue that people will never be happy, for example. But I think overall, I think in most interactions, if you can have a happy interaction, if people can feel good about the experience on both sides, employee and customer, then you build that sort of loyalty, you build word of mouth, and I think that it can be an engine of business growth and of trust. And I think trust is a really key thing as well, particularly in the public sector, building levels of trust.
Okay, so how are you determining this happiness? What's the mechanism? Tell us about the index and what you're doing there.
Yeah, okay, so with Avaya, we've done a big research project with 16,000 consumers. So we've interviewed 16,000 consumers across the world, across 16 different countries, and we've tried to understand the level of happiness that they have with their BUMO, so the brand that they deal with most often. So, you know, if it's a telecoms company that you deal with most often, a utility that you deal with most often, your bank, perhaps an airline that you have a frequent flyer arrangement with, trying to understand how happy those 16,000 customers are with those individual brands, and obviously with the verticals as well. There are many ways of measuring happiness. So, you know, some people measure happiness by looking at other metrics in people's lives, like life expectancy or wealth, you know, those sorts of measures. But our measure is a self-perception measure of happiness. So we've asked the customers to rate the organisations in terms of how happy it makes them feel.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, where can this go from this point?
Well, there's a long history of organisations measuring customer perspectives. So, you know, it started with things like, you know, just people walking up to others in the street and doing a clipboard study, and then we had focus groups, and then we had telephone studies, and now we have online studies and, you know, pop-up app surveys that you might do. So there's lots of things that organizations have used to measure customer satisfaction, customer effort, those sorts of metrics. And we think this is quite possibly a metric which organizations will start to look at in the future. It's just starting. You know, we don't know which verticals will deploy it most, but we think it's something that organizations will think about. And, you know, clearly Avaya, it works in an area where, you know, they provide technology which is supposed to improve the customer experience. So it makes a lot of sense for Avaya to be thinking about the new metrics of customer experience and how they will change the way that organizations deal with their customers going forward.
Okay. Okay, and so 2020 is almost upon us. I mean, why is this? Why now? I guess why has this become important right now?
That's a very good question. I think on the one hand, there's this just interest in happiness and in good mental health and in well-being, and that's a trend which has been going on around the world for probably 15 years or so. And you've seen different organisations, adopt strategies to build the wellness of their customers or to build the emotional connection. So I think it's just sort of joining the dots after time. People sort of see, well, happiness, that's something we could look at. I mean, what else is there? There's lots of things in life that are important to us, but happiness is really quite sort of
pretty
fundamental.
fundamental.
It is
Absolutely,
pretty fundamental. Yeah.
Well, look, Marcus, I wish you the best of luck. I wish you happiness.
Thank you.
And enjoy the rest of the event here.
Good. Same
Thank
to
you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Cheers. And thank you for tuning in. You've been watching David Dungay, editor of Comms Business Magazine. We are here at Avaya Engage in Dubai. To follow all the action, you can do so by using the Avaya Engage hashtag across social media. Thank you for watching.